Steve Bannon has been removed from the National Security Council. He should never have been there in the first place, right? I think it's safe to say we can all agree that Steve Bannon should not have been on the National Security Council in the first place. So there was a reconfiguration that took place today. This has not been a good day for Steve Bannon. Not only did he get kicked off the National Security Council, but now, this entire idea of Steve Bannon being the think tank behind the White House is being dismissed in the news media, which means the White House is trying to separate themselves and put some distance between themselves and Steve Bannon. And the most significant move was the promotion of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Marine Corps General Joseph Dunford, and the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, to regular attendees of the National Security Council. Those roles had previously been downgraded, according to the Washington Post. And as they were downgraded, Steve Bannon was promoted to be on the National Security Council with no previous experience, no prior experience, no qualifications, no educational background, the only thing he served in the Navy, right? That was the extent of his experience. And the justification for him being put on the National Security Council. There's the memorandum that actually clarified this and put this into action, specifies, according to the Washington Post, quote, that Reince Priebus, the White House Chief of Staff, along with Counsel Don McGahn and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, are invited as attendees to any National Security Council meeting. So is John Eisenberg, the Deputy of Counsel to Trump for National Security, another person who reportedly helped provide Nunes with ammunition for his accusations, close quote, according to the Washington Post. But again, so this is somewhat of an isolation game. Steve Bannon is being isolated from some of the core group. Reince Priebus, who had a position parallel to Steve Bannon. Reince Priebus is going to remain, or is now going to be allowed to be, a regular attendee. Steve Bannon has been demoted, and his position that he held has been replaced. And again, this should not have happened in the first place, but it's curious that it's happening now, and it seems to be Donald Trump trying to keep Steve Bannon at bay. Why? It could be the result of Steve Bannon being toxic and Donald Trump finally realizing that Steve Bannon is extremely toxic. That's number one. But it also could be because of Donald Trump's ego, right? Most of the conversation in the national community and the political community was that Steve Bannon was the brains. He had the brains out of the two, out of Dumb and Dumber. He was the one with the intelligence, right? The smart one. He was considered to be the Sith behind the background, or the Dick Cheney to George W. Bush. And as this reputation went out, the more people talked about it, Donald Trump heard it, because it's not like Donald Trump lives in a hermetically sealed bubble. Donald Trump listens to Fox News every single morning. And so as the internet, and he's obviously on Twitter every single morning. So as commentators, journalists, politicians, and on purpose, many people intentionally try to address Steve Bannon as President Bannon, because we all knew Donald Trump would not tolerate that, not for long. And so I think this may be the first salvo in removing Steve Bannon from the position that he holds for the president. And again, this is a good result, possibly because of Donald Trump's ego, but ultimately not having Steve Bannon on the National Security Council, not having someone with white nationalist sympathies, not having someone with anti-Semitic ideologies and thoughts, and not having that type of person on the National Security Council is the best result that we could possibly get at this point. One thing, as I'm talking, I'm reminded of Steve Bannon's worldview, apocalyptic worldview. Steve Bannon has a worldview that can be based on the clash of civilizations theory, but hyper extended, inflamed. I don't really know the word I'm looking for here, but it's magnified by his militant Christian views. his view that the world is ultimately leading to Armageddon, and that our actions are ultimately leading to a great world conflict, between the West and between Muslims, the clash of civilizations theory. Removing someone with that type of ideology from the National Security Council, I don't care if it was the result of Donald Trump's ego, is absolutely the best result that we can hope for.